Hi, everybody, and welcome to our live event. I hope you've had a great week. We'll give everybody another 30 seconds or so before we get going. So just let everybody join the room. See a few people coming in now. Awesome. And yeah, feel free to let us know where you're joining from in the comments. We are very glad to see we've had sign-ups across North America, Europe, and also some in APAC, but it'll be very late in the night if people are joining from there. How are you, James?
Yeah, very well, very well. Thank you. How are you today, Stuart?
Yeah, good. Really excited to get into it. So look, it
Yeah,
looks
me
like
too.
most people are in. So yeah, why don't we get started, James? And as always, the way we like to run these events is value upfront instantly.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk through the kind of core topic that we're covering today and why we thought this was such an important topic to bring to the market?
Yeah, fantastic, Stu. Look, I think when we hear that term "go to market" today, it's for many it's absolute clarity on what makes up go to market. For others, there's a little bit of cloudiness and a seek for clarity when it comes to what components make that up. I guess in the context of today, we're really going to be talking about the four components that we see make up go to market, and that's marketing. That's how we get our story out there. That's how we engage people. And that's probably where we're going to focus a lot of our time today and the whole demand generation aspect. Then you've got the sales development piece, who prospects those signals, those leads, and flips it into pipeline. Then you've got the sales team who closes those deals. And then you've got customer success. And what we've sort of put together today is really what we see as the flywheel for keeping that go to market optimization in check. And that flywheel starts with your audience. It's the ICP, it's who we want to get out there and engage and help. It's then the stories we go and tell them. Now we know who we're telling stories to. What stories are going to help them the most? What stories are going to engage them the most? Then it's execution. How do you get it down and out and in front of them so they start to notice it, so they start to benefit from it? And then it's the measurement. And it's how is this all going? What's working? What's not? What should we double down on? Because that informs did we make the right hypothesis about the audience. And so with that flywheel, we can then start to optimize our entire go to market. And so we're really looking forward to jumping into it today because this is something as we both obsess over. So really looking forward to sharing some of the things that we've been learning with everyone that's here with us.
Yeah, love it. Cool. So look, let's give some context into the problem or maybe the evolution. And I think this research by Sixth Sense, which was released just a few months ago, I think perfectly summarizes just how things are shifting in the market. And what this states is that 81% of buyers have a preferred vendor in mind at the time of first getting in touch with the business or the B2B business that they're evaluating. And quite incredibly, 85% have already established their purchase requirements before reaching out to sales reps. So they've already come in with an understanding of what they want. Now, James, from like a big picture thinking, what does this mean you have to do as a business if this is the new reality that we're operating in when it comes to building pipeline and building demand?
Look, if 81% of the buyer's decision making process has happened before they even make contact with our business, we need to make sure that it is us that is educating them, that is helping them through this journey. So the simple way to think about that is, do we have content out there in the public on YouTube, on our website, that's accessible and ungated for these individuals to learn and inform themselves on really what's important? And I think that leads directly into the 85% statistic, which is you can create their purchase requirements if you do a good job of serving them that content and helping them through that journey. And one final point on this is, when they have consumed this much content away from your business, take any signal of them revealing themselves to you extremely seriously. Whether that is a webinar sign up, whether that is a download, somewhere where they have been willing to expose themselves, knowing that there is so much great information out there in the market today on all topics, just because of the age of abundance we live in with information, it's then time to get in touch with them and say, hey, what is it about this topic that's important to you right now? Why are you looking into it? And that's where you can then really start to have these great conversations where you help them further. So I'm sure we're going to dig into those details in a lot more detail today. But yeah, just wanted to share that.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important to point that out, because like what we're seeing is that the B2B buying journey is getting more complicated. There's more stakeholders, there's more independent research happening than ever before. And I think like when I reflect back maybe 10 years ago when I was building a business in New York, we really felt like the minute we had the first discovery call, we were dictating the narrative of what they needed, the problem that they were facing. But what you can see here with this illustration from Gartner is that actually the actual demo takes place far later on in the journey now, which is between requirement building and supplier selection. And actually, the key component is that the independent online research, which may be before they've exposed themselves, is when they've identified their problem and they're now going through their own levels of research and trying to gather the information that they want. And if that is the new reality, then the key thing to be asking yourself is, how do you ensure at the moment somebody identifies they have a problem, that when they research, they come to you because you previously helped them or because your content has been everywhere. And this is such a kind of key component to the probability of being in control of those conversations and dictating the narrative that you want with your customers.
Yeah, just one thought on that map that you just had on the screen there, Stu.
Yep.
It's complex in in its nature to really demonstrate the point that it's trying to make, but an exercise for a business to sit down and go through each one of those points and try and strategically think about how they could address it to help their audience is actually quite a productive task that could be done. How do we help to help somebody move through overwhelming information about the problem? How do we sort of state that we know that it's overwhelming, but here's a very simple guide that will help you get through a lot of the information that's out there? Just a little exercise that could be worthwhile for businesses that recognize this complexity and what they're trying to navigate for their prospects and customers too.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. So look, as we've mentioned, we're going to cover ICP, story, execution, and measurement, which is the kind of 4-step flywheel that we have seen when businesses do well, it makes such an impact on their ability to build pipeline and hit their goals. So let's start with ICP. Now, I think the key point for everybody that's joining live or is going to watch this back is that if your ICP data is weak or it's not as strong as it could be, it severely impacts your ability to drive the revenue that you want. And really effective demand generation starts with nailing that ICP data and removing what we call your own data debt. And data debt is something that we see build up time and time again in software businesses and even in non-software businesses, where there's been this high dependency on tools such as Apollo or Zoom Info, which are great in many ways, but in other ways they come with kind of major issues that limits your ability to have the quality in your data that you need to hit your goals. And I think there's a few really simple examples, James, that we can just verbalize.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a story that came to mind as you were presenting that slide just there, Stuart, and it's a recent story that we encountered. A business that we were helping had exported a list of 15,000 contacts from a data platform. And what we did to help them was we ran a check to see what the validity of that data was. Are they still receiving emails? Is it up to date? And we were immediately down to 4,500 emails from the 15,000. So 10,000 of them were no longer valid. We then went through that 5,000 with really just sort of a fine-tooth comb, one of our data analysts, to make sure that they were in the right type of role, had the right type of responsibility to really meet the type of criteria that would make any salesperson, any senior individual in the business excited about them engaging and showing an interest in the business's services. And it came all the way down to 2,000 contacts. And, it's this second story then that's on screen right now, that on average, what we found is if you put 1,000 accounts into one of these platforms, you will only find the contacts that you really want in about 400 of them. And that's just the nature of title search. That's the nature of these data platforms being a snapshot at some point of the LinkedIn platform. But of course, that snapshot starts to go out of date the second it's taken. And as a result, businesses go to market only focusing on 40% of what really should, what their audience really should be. The people and the businesses that really should be their customers, right now they don't even know they exist, and they won't know they exist because they haven't been picked up as part of this ICP exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, and thinking about that in another way is that if you have 20 key competitors and you're all leveraging that same tool or a similar tool, you're all targeting those 400 contacts rather than maybe the other 600 that exist somewhere, but right now these tools aren't able to identify them because they've moved jobs recently, or maybe they're not present on a particular platform. And it's that understanding of like the issues that causes, because these tools are open source, almost democratized data sets, is a really, really important consideration. And the other component of data debt, which is really important to point out, is that over time, as you mentioned with that particular example, with the 15,000 email addresses, is CRMs build up this data debt of wrong information. And if that is what's guiding some of our decision making on who we target, are our emails working, why are our signups low, that misguiding of decision making because of the data debt that exists is a massive issue. And this just reinforces it. With one business that we were working with, 100 million in ARR, 35% of their ICP data was very outdated and should never have been part of their active marketing list. 35% means that they're maybe having 35% of their demos are with the wrong type of business, 35% disengagement rate, whatever that was, it's a massive problem. James, you want to talk through maybe a couple of quick tips on how they can fix that?
Yeah, so there's a few tools on screen here, and a few of the methods that we will look to when we're trying to help a business really get some confidence around the ICP list that they're targeting. There's a great platform called KeyPlay. So if you have, let's say, a set of customers right now who you really feel you want more customers just like that, KeyPlay is a great way for you to find those lookalike businesses. If, for example, your business aligns very well with certain technologies or sells into certain ecosystems, then their stack is a great tool that we would recommend. It's actually free at the point of search, so you can start to get some insights as to who in your how many accounts are in your criteria, i.e. territory, using a technology, let's say, for example, Kubernetes. And what their stack does is it looks at a variety of different factors to establish whether somebody uses a technology. But one of the primary ones is things like job descriptions, asking for specialisms in certain technologies, and that's surfaced in the platform and can be very useful and insightful. Where you pay for their stack is at the point of export, to export the finer details like the company name and additional details from there. When it comes to finding maybe businesses that hold certain departments, let's say you're looking for a business that has a center of excellence for customer experience, what you can do is you can then search for those types of job titles and then reverse search on the company. So when you find a job title in a business, then export that set of accounts and then go back and populate all of those accounts with the key personas that you want to sell into, because the job title was really just the signal. You are then going to want to be selling into the buyers and the economic buyers and the key stakeholders within that business, who will understand the problem because the business recognizes it through having that job title and department within it. And then finally, when you can't find what you're looking for always within the data platforms, primarily because the world is sort of governed by these 420 industries that LinkedIn lays out. And those industries, by their very nature, can be quite convoluted. If I am a recruitment company that recruits people in the manufacturing industry, I'm probably going to be listed in the manufacturing industry or the software industry or whatever it may be. But there are some baseline categorizations for industries through things like the SIC codes and NICE codes in the US and the UK, which you can look to get certain types of business that don't have that type of cloudiness within it, because it's not self-prescribed. It's actually prescribed at the point of the business being incorporated. And so, yeah, just sharing a few of the tactics that we look to really drive towards getting the right type of accounts that our business, that our clients should really have as customers already.
Yeah, and I think the other one which is worth pointing out is the value of a tool that I'm sure most have either heard of or seen, which is called Clay. And once we get that core account list, there's a lot of opportunity to use tools like Clay, which are these kind of waterfall solutions to allow us to enrich depth within our contacts, within our key accounts, within roles and responsibilities. And it's got a lot of customization that is possible, both with like direct integrations, but then also with their own Clayagent, which is their own LLM, but then you can also integrate with tools like OpenAI. So really allowing you to like build out that amazing account list where you've removed your data debt with the right type of contacts, so at least you know your starting point of who you're trying to build your demand around is absolutely right.
And look, I'm going to pause here just for a minute in terms of the content that we're sharing. Data is an area that Orbital has specialized in for the last 10 years. It's where the business really began when Josh and Stuart were both in New York and realized the gaps in ICP data. And since then, we've been refining our processes to get to the highest quality ICP lists for all of our clients. And we have a 7-step diagnostic, which allows a business to look at their CRM data, identify the gold, silver, bronze within it, categorize them, and then start to fill in the gaps by way of contacts, find the accounts that maybe aren't already in CRM but do meet that gold, silver, bronze criteria. We've got 2 spots available to take you through it. And we'll share that methodology for you to use and benefit from yourselves. And so if that's interesting to you, would you benefit from it? Just click yes on screen now, and it'll be first come, first serve. But we'd love to take a couple of you through it and share these insights with you, because it's incredibly valuable.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So let's kind of shift on to the second part. So we've nailed the ICP, we've removed the data debt, and we're now going to talk about storytelling. And storytelling is one of those things that I think in B2C businesses do incredibly well. In B2B, maybe not so much. And I've just seen so much research over the last few months about the fact that storytelling done right in B2B, even on your ad set, outperforms any other type of ad significantly. That was researched by LinkedIn. And also the way that storytelling can just capture the imagination of your audience in such a powerful way is just like such a valuable thing to understand. And I think like for us, what we have seen time and time again is if we think about building demand for your business, the first thing you have to do is really ignite that top of funnel, which is where people are majority problem unaware. So they don't even know they face the problem that your solution solves for. And really the key component here with the storytelling is that you have to create content that emotes feeling and not thinking. And the reason that's so important as a mentality is that feeling is automatic. And if you can emote stories that drive that feeling and that warm feeling and how helpful you've been, it instantly activates those key personas that you're looking to engage with in an incredibly scalable and efficient way. And especially if they're not even aware of the problem that your solution solves for, it's just so important. The other part is that you should be genuinely helpful to build trust as quickly as possible. And when we showed that buying journey right at the start, you've got two choices. Do you want to be genuinely helpful at the top of funnel to build trust as effectively and as efficiently as possible? Or do you want to hide all of your insights to hope that you are one business that they decide to engage with when they're far further through their own decision criteria or decision making process? And the final one, James, that I want to bring you on is about telling powerful stories and not being neutral, because we understand that you have to have a multi-channel, multi-touch campaigns, but there's something about being brave in the stories that you tell and not being neutral where you're something to everybody. And would love your views on that and looking at this research, which I know we talk a lot about, but just how can businesses effectively do that when it comes to the storytelling that they're looking to deliver?
Yeah, I think it's a really important topic, and it's one that we think about an awful lot. I think when it comes to being brave and not being neutral, you really want to hold an opinion that people can get behind and not be scared that actually it might be the minority of a market that agree with that opinion, because it's often in the minority where you start to build that following. And if 20% of a market is enough for your business to really win and thrive, take the 20%, because that is enough to make some really big businesses in every marketplace. And so look for what that contrarian point of view is and rally behind it. You will get some people shout at you. You will get some people disagree with you. But this is actually what attention is. And we want to be that cornerstone of debate. Now, you don't want to be contrarian for no reason. You want to drive the market forward. But try and seek out what that is. And just a couple of just sort of points on what can lead you to that place is be relevant, be hyper specific with that audience that you're targeting, and therefore the stories that you tell them feel like they've been written for them, and dig into pains and problems that they measure on a daily or weekly basis, because it will be those things that they measure internally that and it's always been done this way, where the opportunity lies for you to really say, actually, it doesn't need to be done like that at all. If you do it like this, everybody ends up in a better place. And then once you start to really containerize those stories, it then starts to fit in with how you distribute them. And this piece of research that's on the screen now was produced by Neil Patel, NP Digital, one of the biggest digital agencies in the US and Silicon Valley. And if you look at what's across the bottom axis here, these are the different types of content that we have at our disposal as marketers, as go-to-market teams. And what the graph is showing is, where do people consume these types of pieces of content based on where they are in the journey. You can create a great piece of content and you can serve it up and you can repurpose it. And we'll dig into more of this later, but in many of these different places to meet them where they are. So if you create a great story, take the audio from, let's say, a video recording and post it onto a podcast platform where people go and do their early discovery and they start to inform themselves about a particular topic. You can then take the transcript and start to create blogs and written articles. You can break down that watchable piece of content into short form videos, which, by the way, are designed to be misunderstood. Don't feel like you need to get the whole point in a short video. You want to create that curiosity that drives them then to the long form. And then from that long form, you can distribute it in a manner of different ways. You can have it ungated on your site. You can have it on your YouTube channel. But we're always big fans and big champions of pushing that piece of video content out and promoting it as a webinar. And the reason being is, you can see from this latest piece of research here, 80% of the audience is actually at the decision or consideration making stage when they sign up for a webinar. They are really starting to enter that late stage of self-discovery and learning. And so if you've got the opportunity to get some hand raises from that very well curated audience that you've put together as part of the ICP step, you start to feed your sales development teams with the signals that they can really go and prospect and convert into pipeline. And so that one piece of storytelling can actually serve multiple places of the journey through these different content mediums.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And look, like again, this is something that we're very, very passionate about. And if you are a business that would like to do even better with your storytelling, if you'd like some support to understand how do you tell powerful stories and what should be that direction, again, we've got two spots available. You'll see it trigger now. And if you are interested in that, please select yes. And our team will be in touch and we'll talk you through our frameworks. We'll give you insights on exactly how to think about positioning your business so that when you do try and activate across the top, middle, and bottom of funnel, you've got those stories to tell. Now, you've got the stories, which is great. But the next one is execution. And I'd imagine for most of the teams joining today, you're probably getting told to do more with less. You might have had cuts in team size. You might have less resource than you did maybe a couple of years ago. And it'd be so easy for us to come and say, just execute more, execute more, execute more. But that wouldn't be particularly helpful. So what we want to talk through is this concept of content efficiency. And content efficiency is something that I think most businesses do a really, really poor job at. And what that means is like, how can you take your existing content and the primary assets that you've maybe built over the last 6, 12, 18 months and make them work harder for you and ultimately to drive greater impact across your business? And why this is so important is that all of the research shows that actually as internal teams, we get bored of our own content before the market has even acknowledged it. And I think, James, you have to see something, what is it, 20 times before you start paying attention? What's that number that you always reinforce to us?
Yeah, it takes around 20 touch points for someone to even realize that you're messaging them. It takes about 30 touch points for them to realize that that content that you are sharing is of value to them. And so you just need to stick at it and trust that if you've created something through all of your knowledge and experience you know is valuable and important to them, keep putting it in front of them until they realize how much you're trying to help them and how much you can help them.
Yeah, and I think that's why it ties so perfectly into the idea of like redistribution and repurposing as being such significant opportunities for teams on a global level. I was speaking with a CMO just about a week ago, and they've been running these really powerful webinars, month over month actually. And I said, have you ever repurposed them? Have you ever reshared them to the audience again as an on-demand version? And they hadn't. And it's like a small tweak like that just it might not double the performance, but it might give you a 30 or 40 or 50% greater return. And there's all these small tactics that you can apply that can really deliver some pretty phenomenal results. And how we think about it is this concept of content efficiency. And it's really looking at your primary assets in a new way. And can you turn one into multiple pieces of cascading content where you redistribute and you repurpose? And let's take that example of a webinar. You record that webinar. It's live for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Most businesses then put it onto their website, maybe have a post afterwards, and then just hope that the world comes and finds it. But what about if you could start flipping it in different ways? Creating more business posts, having the founders talk about the topics that were discussed, create snippets of the content, release a podcast episode with the audio, build more marketing content around it over a 3, 6, 9, 12-month period, and produce a blog. And all of a sudden, you've created 25 pieces of content that could give you maybe 3, 4 months of follow-on commentary on it from that one primary asset. And I think if you're resource poor, before you think about going on to the next initiative, look at what you have, look at what you've already produced and think, how do we make this work even harder for us across channel, across formats to meet the buyer where they are, whether they're unaware, aware, or they're in consideration and purchase. It's an absolutely massive opportunity for businesses to get right.
Yeah, repetition works. Repetition works. Our audience need reminding more than they need new information. And just finding some different angles to present that same core story to the market will really serve you well from a content efficiency standpoint and your ability to be the business that they have in their periphery vision for long enough that they bring you into focus. because we live in a busy world and we are competing for attention. And when you create something which legitimately helps your audience, do not be scared to just keep getting it in front of them, because it will help them once they have that moment to consider it and consume it.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just conscious of our time for those that have joined. This is us coming into the last section, which is on measurement, and this is something that again we see so many mistakes being made, and we want to give you the insight on exactly like how to be thinking about measurement as we go further into 2025. James, do you want to take over?
Yeah, so there's a few points here, and I think, Stuart, we've got another webinar plan where we're going to dive into the measurement part, in much greater detail. But the truth is, when it comes to touchpoint attribution, it really has become quite untenable. I've spoken to so many marketers that are implementing multi-touch attribution. I've never heard of the successful implementation just yet. Now, am I saying that you should give up on it? No. Am I saying that you should start to look at the bigger picture and some more easy to measure metrics as to whether your entire marketing mix is working? Yes, absolutely. And we'll dig into that in a little bit more detail, I think, on the next slide. When it comes to multi-touch attribution, one of the outcomes, the negative outcomes of it, is that great initiatives are being killed too quickly. When we are reaching out to contacts that don't even know who we are, we've really got to go through a great journey with them to build the touch points, to build the trust. And when you are creating great content, that takes time to get noticed. Like we mentioned earlier, 20 touch points to even know that you're trying to contact them, 30 for them to realize that the content holds value. But if we're only distributing that content in a 2-3 step sequence, well, that big investment we made in content creation isn't working. We shouldn't spend our time there. Let's move it all back to what is a quick win of paid advertising, simple ads and creative that we can get created. And I'll just use this one little line here, which is it just really stuck with me when someone said it to me, is I've seen business, and it holds true, I've seen businesses go out of business because they spent 24 months looking for a quick win. And you need to take a step back and just let some of these types of campaigns that have always worked and are legitimately helpful to the market take flight and really start to deliver results for you. And I really touched on that declining performance program there as well. We're seeing costs go up when it comes to paid advertising, and ultimately results come down. And I just want to share a short story here of a real case study of a client that we work with. It was a business that had really raced to about the 40 million ARR number. And they'd done that through organic SEO, through paid advertising and in-person events. But they then hit a period where it took them about 2.5 years, 3 years to go from 40 to 50 million, with very sort of negligible growth in those years. And they said, look, you've talked to us for a long time about storytelling. Let's do it. So we started working with them, helped them create the stories that we felt worked best for their market. And about 4 months in, all of their SEO started working again. Their PPC started working again. They're like, we're back in here, guys. Like this storytelling piece seems like a lot of work. Why don't we go back to leveraging SEO and PPC and relying on those channels that have served us so well? No problem. Okay, 4 months, we normally say we need about 7 or 8 months of this to really get it working, but it was just part of the arrangement. We got back in touch 6 months later and it had all stopped again. And when we looked at the numbers together, what we'd realized was that great ICP exercise and all of these touch points that we were establishing by creating this content and pushing it out to that audience was then driving more people to go and do their own self-discovery. They were searching for the company on Google Chrome. Google Chrome was then serving that as a search result. They were then coming through a branded search or an organic search, and that traffic was up and those inbounds were up. But when we took a further look at it, it was a result of this great storytelling and these high value touch points that they were pushing out in the market. Needless to say, they're still our client today. We've been working with them for about the last 18 months. And so it's this whole idea that you need to focus in on one of those channels. Actually, it all serves each other. The more inbound you do, the more outbound that you do, the more great inbound you're going to get from those target types of accounts. And when it comes to those inbound signals, webinar signups, content engagement, those signals that now are less common as a result of us ungating content and being that educator to the market, well, that really needs to be taken seriously by our outbound teams. It's those signals that then our sales development representatives should be feeding on and saying, hey, I can see you're interested in this topic. How can we be more helpful? Why are you paying interest in it now? And taking the conversation from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So we're coming to the final couple of slides, and James, this is something again that we speak a lot about, like some of the kind of simple metrics to be thinking about when it comes to just understanding some of that measurement component. Do you want to quickly talk through for both marketing, sales development, sales, and customer success?
Yeah, I mentioned a moment ago about taking a step back and looking at some more macro metrics to decide whether the department is performing well or not, and if all of these activities that make up our marketing mix are moving our metrics and measurements in the right direction. And so when it comes to the marketing piece, we talked today about ICP, we then talked about creating great stories that help and entertain and inspire that audience of people. And really what we want to start to then look at is what's our named account coverage. If that ICP is our gold and silver accounts, how well are we engaging them? Like how much activity are we sparking within those accounts? Then when it comes to our sales development teams that are responsible for really prospecting and following up on those signals that we're creating at the marketing layer, how much pipeline is being generated? Then we want to look at our sales team in terms of close rate. We probably want to look at time to close as well. And then, of course, in customer success, how much of that revenue are we retaining? Now, you need to take a measurement of where you are today. Named account coverage might be difficult because you might not have been following a named account strategy, but you should be able to understand how much you spent over the past 12 months and how much pipeline you generated in that 12 months. So if you spent £1, did you generate £2 in pipeline, or $2 in pipeline, or was it $10? Just for your peace of mind, the market leading number right now is if you spend $1 or £1, you're getting about $8 in pipeline. And then averaging a close rate of 25%, you then put yourself in a position where you spent $1 to get $2 in revenue. And that really is market leading performance. But find out where you are today and then start to assess those optimizations, those new campaigns, that new way in which that your sales development team follow up on signals. Is it creating more pipeline? Is it increasing the close rate? Is it making those time to sales shorter? And then are we retaining more customers? And as long as those metrics start moving in a positive direction, you are imposing positive programs on your business.
Yeah, it's so many great points in there. And I think this is as a way to understand the breakthrough across everything that we're doing is that there are undoubtedly more touch points required today than ever before, and that is just the new reality. That this research from Hockey Stack showed that it's taking 266 touch points in 2024 with over 2,800 impressions for you to close deals. And it's just getting higher and higher. And therefore, why this is such an important point to make is that if you haven't nailed your ICP and you're not telling great stories and you're not executing relentlessly in a really efficient manner, and crucially measuring it in the right way so that you're not killing too many initiatives too early, that is what you need to do to build demand and success in 2025, because it's more touch points than ever before to get attention and then to close the deals. And that's really the kind of summary that we want to leave you with, that nail all of these components, give it time, execute really effectively, and you will be able to build demand for your business and hit the goals that you've set. And what you will be invited to after joining today is we're going to be digging into each of these components and having isolated discussions to really go to the depth needed for you to win. And we really hope that you've enjoyed the discussion today. And from both James and I, thank you for joining, and we look forward to speaking to you in due course. So thank you so much, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you, Stuart. Looking forward to digging into each one of
Yeah,
those.
well done.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you. See you.